What's up guys, Overman here, and today I'm back with another review for you guys. So we're going to take a look at the Coiled Hiss 1919, which is a pulse rifle that I picked up from the Vanguard Quatermaster for 150 Vanguard marks and 1 Vanguard commendation. So let's jump into the upgrades. Okay, so for sights, we start off with the red dot ores, which is a really nice sight because the red dot on this one is very small, which is going to allow for some nice precision shooting. Next up, we've got the ranged lens, RLR5. This is a standard range scope, nothing much to say here. It's good for those of you that want to use this weapon at a longer distance, but personally I don't. So the sight I go with is the last one, which is Red Dot Ores. This is my favorite sight because it's nice and clean, and for some reason I just really like the look of it. But as always, you should choose the sight that you're most comfortable with. So the first bonus we have is Feeding Frenzy, which is going to increase the reload speed of this weapon after a kill. I really like this bonus, and I actually prefer this one to Outlaw because Feeding Frenzy doesn't require you to get a kill with a precision shot. As long as you get kills with the weapon, you'll get that bonus reload speed, which is always good on every weapon, and I especially like this bonus on pulse rifles. So in the middle tree we have Hammer Forged, High Caliber Rounds, and Perfect Balance. Personally, I choose to go with Perfect Balance because I'm a stability whore, and I just think that it makes the weapon a lot easier to handle. But if you're fine with the recoil, you could go with High Caliber Rounds to stagger some bitches, or you can go with Hammer Forged to shoot bitches at a longer range. And the final bonus is Counterbalance, which is going to give this weapon even more stability, which is always nice on a pulse rifle. Having these two stability upgrades allows you to consistently hit those precision shots, which means more damage, which means lower time to kill. Alright, so now let's talk about the weapon. When I first looked at Coiled Hiss, I thought it would be the Dr. Nope or Atheon's epilogue of pulse rifles, since it had a high rate of fire and low impact. But I was totally wrong, because although it does have low impact, it's still a pulse rifle, which means it's got good damage. So you'll be able to drop a few lower tier enemies in PvE with ease. Generally, I was killing lower tier enemies in about 3 bursts, as long as I was getting those precision shots. But because of the lower impact, I didn't have such a good time with shielded targets and armored targets. So for example, wizards and knights don't really play nice with Coiled Hiss. That's not to say Coiled Hiss is bad against them, it's just that it's not exactly a Badger CCL or anything like that. So when I was using this weapon, I made sure I packed along a nice special weapon that could handle the shields that I was going to go up against and do enough damage so I would kill a wizard or a minotaur in a reasonable amount of time. Speaking of minotaurs, Coiled Hiss really struggles against minotaurs. I was using this thing on the Undying Mind Strike and things didn't go very well for me. I found that I really had to rely on my shotgun to take down those minotaurs, but I can't really blame Coiled Hiss for that because there's a shit ton of minotaurs with void shields and they have yellow bars, which makes it even more annoying. What the fuck? Man, that strike, ugh. It was cool the first time, but after a while it just got really annoying. But anyways, while I was using this weapon, it reminded me a lot of my Vanquisher 8 that I got from the New Monarchy vendor. And that's actually a good thing because I really like the New Monarchy Vanquisher 8. And overall, I think that describes this weapon really well. It feels more like an auto rifle than a pulse rifle, really. And that's pretty much how I use it. I pretty much run around and use this thing in auto rifle ranges, not necessarily those pulse rifle or scout rifle ranges like I would with something like 3 Little Words. Now, I don't think this weapon is gonna necessarily blow you away with its damage or its rate of fire or anything like that, but it's a very enjoyable weapon to use because you can shoot really fucking fast, you do a decent amount of damage, and you've got Feeding Frenzy, which means you can reload the weapon really quick and start shooting again. This thing is a bona fide bullet hose, and it's not a bullet hose like an Atheon's epilogue because it actually does a decent amount of damage and you can actually kill things without tickling them first. Coiled Hiss 1919 is a very fun and enjoyable gun to use overall. It's a nice break for me personally from the hand cannons and scout rifles, which demand consistent precision shots all the time, or else you might as well not even use them. With Coiled Hiss, I just aim in the general vicinity of the head or belly button if I'm fighting the Vex, and I can do decently with this gun. I really like using this thing on Vanguard rock strikes and on the daily missions, but that's not to say that this thing can't hold its own in raids and nightfalls. In fact, once I level this thing up further, I probably will take it along with me in some raids. I have to say my favorite thing about this gun, no doubt, is the rate of fire. This thing shoots so fucking fast. It's really fun to use, and it's really fun to spam my trigger and spam bullets at enemies like that. So now what about PvP? Well, in PvP, this thing works very similarly to how it works in PvE. Like I said before, I kind of use this thing like an assault rifle, and that's the same way I use it in PvP. Since it's got that really high rate of fire, you can use this at those shorter ranges. But one of the things that I like about Coiled Hiss is that you maintain those ranged advantages over auto rifles when you're in those medium range situations. But it's not the hugest advantage though. Somebody with a Vanquisher, a Galahad, or a Suros can easily take you down if your aim isn't on point. So in PvP, I think this thing does 16 to the dick and 24 to the face. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the general vicinity of the numbers. But the problem is that this thing shoots so damn fast, I really don't know how many bursts it's going to take to kill, but generally speaking, as long as you're getting those precision shots and landing the full burst, you can expect to kill in about 4 bursts. So that means if your aim is true, you can actually squeeze out 2 kills with this weapon, but you're gonna have to be accurate. One problem I found with Coiled Hiss is that for a pulse rifle, it doesn't give you as much of an advantage over auto rifles as you would think if you're pretty accurate. I found that a lot of times when I was dueling with auto rifles, if I did manage to win the gunfight, I was left on some really low health. Now you can say that's due to my poor gun skill, and I would agree with you to a certain extent. However, with the 3 little words, I was consistently coming out on top against auto rifles as long as I minded my range. With the 3 little words, I could drop an enemy using an auto rifle very quickly and I would retain a large portion of my health. But I guess that's down to the way this weapon works. Like I said before, it's pretty much an auto rifle in pulse rifle form because of that high rate of fire. So obviously, if you're dueling with other auto rifles, it's gonna be pretty even Stevens. It's gonna come down to whose aim is better. But I don't think that's a bad thing about this pulse rifle because, like I said before, it does do better than your average auto rifle at longer distances, but just not as well as something like the 3 little words would. Now personally, I think Coiled Hiss 1919 is a great weapon for me personally because I don't like that downtime in between shots with a pulse rifle. It's not an issue if you can hit those 2 accurate bursts with something like 3 little words and get a kill, but if you miss or you're only getting body shots, the time in between your bursts is really freaking annoying. I just hate tapping my trigger and having nothing happen. So of course you would say that you should just not tap your trigger and get used to the rate of fire of the weapon, but I still just don't like not being able to shoot all the freaking time. I don't know what it is about me, man, but I really like Coiled Hiss 1919 for this rate of fire. It allows me to always just spam that trigger and spam bullets at people, and that's really fun to do. So to sum it all up, if you're looking for a pulse rifle that plays very similarly to an auto rifle, this is your pulse rifle right here, and any other pulse rifle that has a high rate of fire like this one for that matter. I think Coiled Hiss 1919 is a great stepping stone to get into lower rate of fire, higher impact pulse rifles like 3 little words and Red Death. It's not going to provide as high of a reward as those other pulse rifles I mentioned, but at the same time, it's not going to be as risky if you miss some shots. Coiled Hiss 1919 is very forgiving for those of us who have less than stellar aim. So if you're like me and you just like to spam bullets and you're not the best marksman out there, go ahead and pick this one up. I really like this thing in PvE. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm probably going to max it out. For PvP, I think it's solid, but I'd prefer to use something like Bad Juju if I really wanted to use a pulse rifle. And if I was really try-harding it up, I think 3 little words beats it out if I could discipline myself and consistently land those 2 burst kills. So final verdict, I have to say this thing is really close to a must-buy. It's a really fun gun for me personally, but of course that could be different for other people. Some of you out there might think this is just some fucking pea shooter bullshit, and you might not like it, and you might totally prefer 3 little words. But you won't know until you try, right? So I would recommend going ahead and picking it up. At this point you probably have some Vanguard marks laying around, so why the fuck not? Go ahead and try this one out. It's a great gun, I highly recommend it, it's got great bonuses, and it's pretty forgiving to use. But that's enough babbling for me, I'm gonna cut this one right here. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're not feeling too shy, drop a comment below. Let me know what your favorite pulse rifle is available in the tower. Right now, I have to say, Coiled Hiss 1919 is my personal favorite for when my aim isn't as good. If my aim is really on point though, I'd have to say 3 little words is my favorite. Oh, and Twitter link is in the description below. Please do follow me if you'd like to interact with me on Twitter. I'd like to interact with you guys, but I really don't have too many followers, so I feel like it's pointless to post something on Twitter and have no one interact with me. So if you want to interact with me, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. And of course, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. That's it for me. Overman out.